2021 Lexus LC500.
Performance package without launch control.
Hit him Savage Geese style.
Listen to second gear. So good.
Horsepower torque.
471 horsepower, 398 pound-feet of torque from a 5-liter V8 with no turbos. Just the way I like it. So you mentioned Savage Geese style. Is that because he has about 1,000 videos on this car already?
Yes, and this is our second video on it. Congratulations to us.
Thank you, thank you.
But mostly Savage Geese style because he was pinging it off the limiter and everyone hated it in the comments. So can you...
Yeah, of course, Yuri. Just this for Goose and Jack. Oh, so good. Love it.
Okay, but you can not shift like that.
Yeah, obviously. Let me just... So good.
Okay, this is the best sounding car of the year, I think, from the inside, outside, the best tone. Usually I'm not the biggest fan of V8s compared to 6 cylinders, but this is perfect.
I love the way this thing sounds. Exhaust of the year, and probably would have been over the last several years had we been able to drive one. Everything about this is perfect. The tone, the exhaust level, everything.
And between all the drive modes, it pretty much sounds exactly the same, which is amazing. So every time you start it, it sounds perfect.
Yeah, and on starts, it's really loud. It's kind of like Mercedes emotion start, but you don't actually have to do anything.
My only gripe is that a lot of the times you can't shift into first gear with the paddles. It'll stop you and hit you with that beep. Sometimes I just want to get that pointlessly for no reason.
And into cliche corner with the traction control off. Man, she wants to get sideways, and it's so controllable. Man, I just love the way this thing feels.
So predictable.
Super predictable. I know exactly what it's gonna do. It reminds me of the GSF, potentially the RCF, which we haven't actually driven, but also my ISF, which I owned for several years. It gives me that same level of predictability.
Real talk, this is way more fun and cooler to drive than the Supra, and it's actually a Toyota product. This is what the Supra should have been.
100%. I don't even care if they gave it the same V8 and it needed an inline 6. Just give it this. I wouldn't have been upset.
And even if they gave it this and didn't give it a manual transmission, I think more people would still be happy because there's still no manual in the BMW Supra.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know.
That's my Supra rant.
This would have been really good as a Supra. And they still can do it. It could just be a Toyota something.
No, they should have done.
They're not going to do it.
What if they make this a Toyota Soarer?
Well, that's what it was in Japan because this is the replacement for the Lexus SC, which was the Soarer in Japan.
Which is also kind of a Supra.
Well, what everyone says about the SC is it's a Supra in a suit.
Cool.
Yes. So this is the same engine that's in the RCF and the GSF, and it's based on the one that was in the ISF. So it is an F engine, but this is not an F vehicle. So there are a bunch of changes for 2021, not that we can verify them because we haven't driven the previous one, but apparently the adaptive suspension has been retuned and there's a bunch of new suspension components which have been lightened.
Oh, I'm sure Savage Geese definitely noticed that in all of his reviews.
Yeah, so watch Savage Geese's videos on all the changes throughout the model years.
Or literally any American.
But I can tell you that the suspension is very smooth. Like, this is one of the best suspensions of any car I've driven.
It's perfect for being a luxury tourer and a sports car.
Exactly, because it does firm up in Sport Plus mode, but it's also really soft in Sport Plus mode, and even in Comfort mode it gets even softer. And the 10-speed auto has also been retuned for 2021, and the biggest thing that I notice, just the way that this one feels, not compared to the previous one, is that when you're flooring it, it shifts really hard. So I'm going to downshift right now and floor it, and you really feel and hear that, but now if I'm going to go half throttle, watch this. It rolls into the next gear really smoothly.
That's some good computer programming you guys got there.
Yeah, that's like unreal. And everything about the steering feels so normal. This does have 4-wheel steering and it doesn't feel like it's weird or anything like that. You know exactly what it's gonna do. It does help you out in parking lots to shorten the wheelbase. And when you wanna go fast, it also helps you out there to make the turning radius a little bit better.
Probably the best feeling car I've driven in a long time besides every single Porsche. Like, it is exactly going where you point it. Exactly.
Yeah, like I actually just want to declare this the car of the year.
Yeah, except the whole interior and infotainment cancels all of that out.
Interior, no. Infotainment is not so good. So on to some weird interior things. The way that we change the drive modes are these kind of horns on the side of the gauge cluster. A little weird to get used to, but it looks kind of cool.
I think it looks stupid, but I get it.
So onto the drive modes, we actually have Eco, Comfort, Custom, Normal, Sport, and Sport Plus. Quite a bit of drive modes.
Yeah, I pretty much just kept it in Sport Plus the whole time, because then you also get the cooler gauge cluster with that.
Yeah, the gauges look unreal, pretty much like all the other Lexuses now.
And then if we click the button, we can have the gauge cluster move to the right and left. But now here's the worst part. If we want to turn traction control off, we need to be at a full stop. Then we need to hold that button in, because if you try doing it while you're driving, it's not going to work. And once you have traction control off, you're going to get this traction control off warning.
Yeah, and you can't turn it off. You can press back and then it pops up every single couple seconds.
One of the solutions I have is if you move the gauge cluster to the right, it'll only stay in the left, so it won't overlap into the tack.
But then your tack isn't centered.
Okay, now here's my actual solution. Listen up, everyone. You guys don't know about this yet. Let's motor into cliche corner and hold down that back button.
Hold the back button.
And keep holding it.
Okay.
Now go through cliche corner. Don't let go of that button.
How long do I have to hold this for?
Forever. But that's the way to stop it from showing.
So you don't actually have a set time. You just keep holding it until you let go in like a minute or something.
As long as you're holding that button down, you won't get the traction control warning, and you can still drive like that and shift.
That's the worst.
Isn't it?
That's the worst.
My other solution
I would
is
just tape this down.
Yeah, get some tape and like tape down a ball bearing to that or something like that. But that's probably the worst part about this whole LC500 is that it's got dumb warnings. You're paying over $100,000 for this awesome car, and it's like, hey, guess what? Warning forever.
Yeah, but you know what else you're paying for? Oh, so worth it. All right, you're
The ability to bang it off the limiter.
You got it. Let's get you into the driver's seat so you can bang it off the limiter.
So we don't have launch control, but if we put the brake all the way down and floor it, the wheels won't spin into a burnout because the brakes are too good. So I'm gonna let off a little bit.
And then you go. That's a lot of smoke.
Ooh.
0 to 100 kilometers in around 4.5 seconds.
Which is very nice for a naturally aspirated car that feels old school.
Exactly.
So let's get to the looks of this, because it's probably the craziest looking Lexus out there right now.
Looks like a spaceship.
One of the craziest looking cars overall.
Because it looks like a concept car that they actually made, because that's exactly what ended up happening.
Okay, so if we look at the side view, it kind of cuts in a whole bunch right along the bottom of the rocker.
Yeah, it looks like it's just shaped by the wind, essentially.
And then it's got a really smooth shape that really wraps around the back wheel and bulges out back there. We've got really cool wheels on this.
Yeah, I love these wheels. They're part of the performance package.
The black and whiteness of them look really good. And what would be the Continental recommended tire for the LC500?
The Extreme Contact Sport.
And then the front, we've got that gigantic Lexus grille, and I think this is the most Lexus grille of all the Lexus grilles right now.
Yeah, this thing looks unreal from the front. It's like that Predator thing, but it actually works really well here.
And then the headlights are also the most Lexus of the Lexus headlights. It's pretty much the pinnacle of the Lexus design style.
Well, that's exactly what it is, and it's the flagship vehicle.
We've got a super long hood, which makes it feel extra grand tourer.
So moving on to the back end, the taillights are unreal.
Yeah, they're kind of like infinity looking mirror taillights, but then when you have them off, they're fully white.
Yeah, you can tell that they spent so much time making these taillights, and it was worth every minute they spent on them.
And what's cool about the rear signal lights is it's a yellow light that comes down all the way along the bottom.
Yeah, because the actual brake light is in the taillight, and it just looks like an LED strip. I feel like it could have been cooler considering what the actual lights look like.
And then we've got a very nice shape here. There's a spoiler, but it only pops out when you're at a certain speed or if you click the button.
And looking at the exhaust, I'm kind of okay with it. It is 2020 real, aka fake, but because the tips are blacked out and kind of small between the openings, I'm okay with it.
And lastly, the color of this LC500, it's like a really dark, foresty green that's very reflective in certain lights and then not reflective at all in other lights.
It's almost like a British racing green, but with like a lot more metallic in it. I don't really like it.
Yeah, I don't like it because it doesn't pop in a lot of colors and it really doesn't accentuate how good the car looks unless you're in the perfect lighting, which we managed to do in these shots. But when it was cloudy, didn't really look that good.
And if you don't have it in the right spot, it just looks like a really weird dark kind of gray color.
Yeah, you lose a lot of the body lines because of it. I would probably go with the blue or the yellow or the red.
Yeah, absolutely. But overall, this is one of the best looking cars on the road, like bar none.
Yeah, you know how much I like any car that looks exactly like the prototype? This looks exactly like the prototype, and I'm so happy they built it exactly the way they did.
I remember watching the launch event. No one expected it to actually look like the prototype, and they did.
So now for the stuff that I really don't like, and it pretty much all has to do with the interior and the infotainment.
Okay, what don't you like about the interior?
We've got the Lexus touchpad system, and we've got the nice screen up there that we can't touch at all because there's a plastic thing right in front of it. Controlling everything through a touchpad is a total nightmare, even though we do have a volume knob and tuning and track sliders on the side with some hard buttons. It's just not a great setup like a lot of other companies do.
So your actual interior issues are strictly related to the infotainment?
Yes, because everything else in here, the materials, the looks are perfect. It is very nice. The shifter kind of sucks because it's really just a Prius shifter with a knob that goes up.
Okay, good. But you had me worried there for a second because this is the best interior I've ever sat in my entire life.
Oh yeah, 100% the same. I love everything about it, like the feeling of the steering wheel.
And you did mention the Prius shifter. Yeah, it's because of the pattern of the shifter, and it does take some getting used to, but it's not that bad.
But then there's stuff like this traction control thing that will never turn off, which is totally awful.
It really is, and the infotainment is awful. As we've said in every other Lexus review, it's the same system.
But in this system, I feel like it's more high res because when I put on my reverse camera, it looks exactly the same as everything else in the other Toyotas and stuff, but I think it's higher res because of the screen only.
Yeah, so the camera is the same resolution, but the screen feels like it has like better pixels or something.
Probably just more res. Probably just more pixels.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can rewind satellite radio stations. You do have a super wide Apple CarPlay, which you still have to control through this touch thing, which is kind of awkward. But we've got the new iOS 14, so I can change my backgrounds and stuff and have Google Maps up on that other widget screen.
And we also have Android Auto, which is really nice, and both are standard for 2021.
I am a little disappointed though that we don't have a 360 camera in this, because with such a long car, you really want to make sure you don't tap into anything. Like I really don't want to put this bumper into a curb in front of me.
It is a bit surprising.
And then how about the heated and cooled seats?
Okay, everything's buried in the infotainment. You don't have any hard buttons for that. You do have some hard buttons for your general climate, but all the specific stuff like your heated steering wheel is all buried in there.
And then we do have a button to turn on and off our head-up display, but to change what you see, you have to do that through the settings.
And all the materials in here are so top-notch. Everything looks and feels extremely premium. This is better than a German interior.
Yeah, this is perfect. And how do you like the seats?
Seats are so comfortable. We do have the sports seats, and I love them. They're so bolstered, and they're so padded.
The only thing is we only have lumbar forward and back. We don't have it up and down, and this is like a luxury car, so maybe it should have that, but it is kind of old, so I could see why it's not implemented in this version.
And this is a 2+2, so technically you can have humans back there, but realistically, not so much for myself at 6'1.5" behind myself.
I can't even fit back there, and my head's like up against the glass. That's what you have to experience in every car, isn't it?
Yeah. I experienced that in the 911 as well. Like, it's the same.
Horrible, but like, who cares? Just don't put anyone back there.
It's not a real 2+2. I mean, kind of is, but no.
Then if we move on to the trunk space, it's pretty small, but there's enough room to get all the bags you need in there for normal trips. Cup holder, we got one up at the front, and it fits a small cup just fine. It's cool because it's got a little cover that goes up and down. And then how about the visors?
Let's find out.
Toyotas never pass, do they?
I think they sometimes do.
No, they got the flap.
Oh, yeah.
3, 2, 1. Fail.
Fail.
So is this a supercar?
No.
No. But like,
it's the sickest non-supercar.
But some technology that is good. This does have lane keep assist and radar cruise. The lane keep assist works relatively well, pretty much like every other full Toyota Lexus system. And in this interior, we've got this armrest that slides back, and then once it's slid back, you can open it up. It's really nice because once you conceal everything, you've got that nice look where everything is closed.
It's a really nice overall look, and the color of this interior definitely works for the exterior.
And I love this little pattern here on the right too. And then we do have keyless entry in here, which is cool because the door handle pops out when you click it. And to close it, you just give it a little tap inwards and it'll close on its own and light up that green lock light.
I feel like it should have been a little bit better implemented because it still feels kind of weird to press that in a little.
Yeah, having just a touch instead of a little push would make it a lot more elegant.
Exactly. So we do have the optional performance package for around $13,500, which is a lot of money. But with that, we get one cool exterior item, which is the carbon fiber roof.
Yeah, that looks really cool. You really notice it when you get close up, and it also has some cool metal trim along the roofline that leads back to the quarter panels.
Yeah, and it's like chrome, but it also works on this car. And there's also a bunch of other stuff as part of that performance package, which you're gonna use as you send it into Cliche Corner, so give me a little send, Yuri.
This feels like a new age muscle car.
It does feel muscly though.
I'm getting those Challenger vibes from it, but with like much better handling and a much nicer interior.
Yeah, so part of that package is the active rear sport differential and the variable gear ratio steering, which both feel great.
This is actually one of the best feeling sports cars I've driven.
It really is.
So with all that stuff on this LC500, let's get to the price.
This one is $117,050.
Canadian.
Which is a pretty damn good price.
Yeah, that's not as expensive as I thought it would be, especially compared to the competition. competition.
So that would be like the BMW M8 50i, the Porsche 911, and the Mercedes S-Class Coupe.
We've driven all of them. I feel better in this.
I feel the best in this. There's also other ones like F-Types and things, depending how you option them, but this is like the most Grand Touring one.
Yeah, I think it's got the best sounding exhaust. It's probably the most reliable.
Yeah,
it
probably.
It has the wildest looks.
Yeah, it's the best overall car.
The only thing it's seriously lacking in is the infotainment and some of the features on the interior, but I can let a lot of that slide for the sound and the driving feel.
Yeah, it's a near perfect vehicle, which is so refreshing to actually experience now.
And there's like barely any of them on the road, so rich people, start buying this instead of BMWs, Mercedes.
And even Porsche 911s, because I see so many of those on the road.
Yeah, all you guys who can afford this should definitely consider this on your next cool coupe purchase.
So let us know what you guys think of this, and watch this playlist/video with our convertible as well. Pretty sick. Ooh, LC500 convertible, that sounds great.